Hi, nice to meet you guys. I'm Brielle. I'm with the Sheriff's Comm Center.
How are you today?
Good. How about you guys?
And I am going to make you co-host in case you have anything you would like to share in terms of slides or videos, or if you just like to talk.
Okay, I do have a PowerPoint when you guys are ready.
We are ready.
Right on. So my name is Brielle. I've been with the Sheriff's Comm Center for just over 3.5 years now. I'm a training officer, terrorism liaison, working recruitment, a lot of great opportunities with our department. So I'm just going to dive right on in and show you guys a presentation that we normally show during our critical exam. And I'll talk a bit about what that is here in a couple minutes. When we have dispatchers that are going through our application process, we do have them take this exam. And this is a presentation that if any of you guys ever end up applying with us, that you'll see again during that exam. So I'm gonna go ahead and jump into that. Okay, can you guys see it okay? Perfect.
We're good.
All right, so we are County of San Diego employees that are working for the Sheriff's Department. So not only are you a Sheriff's employee, but also a county employee. We answer 911 and non-emergency calls. And we also dispatch units working in the field via the radio for our department and other county entities. And we'll talk about a bit more what those are in a minute. So whether it's working phones or working radios, we have a very exciting day ahead of us every time that we start our work day. Now, where are we physically? We're right here in Kearny Mesa, which is where I physically am right now. So if you check out our map here, if you see where the Highway 15 is, right next to the 163, we're right there in the middle, just east of the convoy area. So centrally located, you don't have to go out to each station every single day or go really throughout the county unless you're gonna, like I said, do recruitment events or something else. For example, the furthest I've gone for a recruitment event is Camp Pendleton. And that was just because I voluntarily work with recruitment. So if making presentations and recruiting is something that makes you a little bit nervous, then you certainly don't have to sign up for that. But that's pretty much the only travel that I experience as a dispatcher personally. Otherwise, all your work is going to be at the comm center. We work 24/7, 365 days a year, including nights, weekends, and holidays. Shifts are between 8 or 10 hours long. We have 2 to 3 consecutive days off each week and rotate in between shifts. So what that might look like, for example, is my schedule right now. We have a 16-month period and it switches in between we like to call it our flip-flop every 4 months. So for example, my schedule right now is I work Thursday through Sunday, 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. right now. But then every 4 months, I switch to my flip-flop, which for me is weekdays, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. So you get to choose your own shift. Shift picks are done by seniority, but every single person's shift is going to include nights, weekends, holidays at some point. Now, what's great about this is when you're a new dispatcher, such as myself, you're not going to get stuck on nights and weekends all the time until you have seniority. Everyone has to work nights and weekends, and everyone gets to have weekends off and work during the daytime. Shifts are between 8 or 10 hours long. So kind of back to my schedule, I work 10 hours a day, 4 days a week. So for me, I get to have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday off throughout the whole day. You're not just going to have one day off here, one day off there. You get your days consecutive. And if you pick one of those shifts that has 10-hour shifts, then you're going to have 4 days of your work week instead of 5, which is great as well. Personally, I don't notice the extra 2 hours versus previously working an 8-hour day job. The difference to me isn't very noticeable, but as long as you have a good sleep schedule, keep yourself healthy. If you need to bring coffee to work every now and then, it definitely helps to have that. But I definitely think it's very doable myself. And if you're not comfortable with that and you want to work an 8-hour shift, then we certainly have some 5 days a week, 8-hour shifts available. Now, the hiring process is about 2 to 6 months. It just depends on how fast you get through it and what your work history looks like. So for example, when you first start, one of the steps you're going to need to take is applying through our website, joinsdsheriff.net. And I'll talk about that again here in a moment. But once you join the department, you basically fill out your basic questions that you would in any job. Some of the questions you'll notice that we have that other jobs might not have is, do you have any felony convictions? Do you have any misdemeanor convictions? All felony convictions are disqualifying. Some misdemeanor convictions are disqualifying. It just depends on what they are. But basically you apply with the department, you go through your Critical exam. So it's a computer-based test in which we test how well you multitask, how well you can prioritize things, some spelling, a little bit of reading comprehension. So make sure you're paying good attention in your English classes. That certainly helps. After that, you go through our PIQ, or pre-investigative questionnaire. I like to refer to it as like a really, really long BuzzFeed quiz. It's kind of like a quiz where you talk about your life experiences, your work experiences. One of the questions they ask you on there, at least they did when I applied, was, what's one of the most heroic things you've ever had to experience? One of the most heroic things you've ever done. So we ask a lot of different questions about you to see if you're a good fit for this job. After that, you'll go through your actual background with your background investigator. They'll look into things like contacting your previous teachers. What was your reputation like? Contacting people that are close to you. Some of those people you get to list yourselves. So if you know, hey, my high school teacher is going to vouch for me, or my previous boss that I had when I worked at McDonald's is going to vouch for me. It really just depends on who we want to list for that, but they're going to basically look into your past to make sure that you have a good past, because we want to make sure that the people we're employing with the sheriff's department are going to represent our department very well. Once you finish with that, we have a psychological exam. It's also like a very long quiz. I would really compare it really close to your guys's, if you remember taking the STAR test in like elementary school and high school. It's kind of similar to that format. You're just going to have questions and you fill it out on a bubble sheet, and it's going to ask you, are you more of a cat person or a dog person? Like some questions like that actually have a meaning behind it psychologically. They're also going to ask you things like, have you ever killed someone before? Like really straightforward questions that you know why they would want to ask that, but then also some other questions that are going to help them evaluate you psychologically. Now, this is also just to make sure that this job would be a good fit for you as well, because it can be a very mentally taxing job at times. So that psychological exam is part of that. After that, we have a medical exam, but it's pretty simple. It involves a drug test, making sure that you can see well, making sure that you can hear well, making sure you're going to be able to type and sit in a chair for 10 hours a day. So that's what our hiring process looks like. So if you have a really clean background or you have prior military experience, then that background might go a little quicker for you. Or if the minute your background investigator asks for you to bring in a certain document or bring in a certain previous, like if you have a good review that you want to provide from one of your previous supervisors or from school or letter of recommendation, and they ask for that, to get it to them as soon as possible, that'll help your process go a little faster as well. It just depends on the person and your life experience. Now for training is conducted in-house over approximately 14 to 16 months. It's a combination of classroom and one-on-one training. We have also field ride-alongs as part of that training as well. So when you're going to train on phones, then inquiry, then radios. Now, when you train for phones, you're going to have some academy time in our phone academy here in-house. And then you're going to have some time on the dispatch floor with your training officer. So that way you can experience as much as possible in a controlled setting and with someone that's supporting you that can make sure that you're prepared to handle that before you're by yourself. Being something like a 911 operator or a dispatcher sounds like a very intimidating job, but if you have that person next to you or that person supporting you, it certainly helps. Being a training officer myself, I know that it's so thorough, and I won't sign off a trainee until I feel 100% confident that they're able to handle things by themselves. And then after your training process, we have field ride-alongs. We're not doing them right now because of COVID, but basically, for example, if you guys want to do ride-along up in Vista, somewhere that you guys are familiar with, then you could sign up for Vista as your ride-along area. Or if you're from North County and you want to do something that you're less familiar with, maybe you might sign up in Spring Valley. It just depends, but you'll get to actually go on a ride-along with deputies in the field so you can experience the other half of what we do. Phase 1 is the phone training. So you're going to learn your codes, computer systems, geography, questioning techniques. Will really teach you how to be that 911 operator. It involves 5 weeks in a classroom with an instructor and then 9 weeks with a training officer taking calls on the dispatch floor like we talked about. Phase 2 is inquiry training. So you learn how to use various databases, radio functions, and etiquettes on a radio. It's a week with a classroom instructor and 2 weeks with a training officer handling requests from field units on the radio. This is a super important part of what we do. For example, for those of you that have been pulled over before, don't worry, I'm not going to make you raise your hand or tell you who it is. It happens to all of us. But if you've ever been pulled over before, something that you might notice is that the officer doesn't always just come talk to you, give you your ticket, and go. Sometimes they might go back to their patrol car for a couple minutes. What they're probably doing is running you on inquiry radio. So When you're on that inquiry radio, the deputy is basically going to come up and say, this is who I have to run, give their information. We basically want to make sure that you're not America's Most Wanted in a stolen vehicle. It's a really important part of both their safety and them finding out, okay, who is this person that I'm contacting? Are they on probation? Do they have a warrant that I can arrest them for? It's all crucial parts of officer safety. It's a really interesting position to work. Phase 3 is radio training. So you're learning advanced radio functions, computer systems, and how to handle field unit emergencies, whether that's dispatching them to an alarm, handling a foot pursuit, handling a traffic pursuit. It's 4 weeks in a classroom with an instructor, and then 8 weeks the training officer handling live radio traffic. We try to make as many situations as possible in that simulated setting of being with a training officer. We also offer something called role play off the floor. So basically you go into the classroom with your training officer and they create these scenarios where they take a patrol radio, we go on a training channel, and they pretend that they're experiencing a foot pursuit, or they press their emergency button, or they do something that gives you that experience in a controlled environment, so you have the opportunity to safely experience these emergencies without being on a dispatch radio. So that way, when you go on the radio, you can be as confident as possible. Pay and benefits. So we start at $22.10. This number is constantly changing. The county takes really great care of us. We do frequently get raises, which is a great aspect of this job as well. After a year, you bump up to $26.63. This is your probational period, is a year. The top step about 7 years into the job is $36.10. So you're going to go up a step until you hit 7 years in. That's when it maxes out and you're at $36.10. We have a couple other different premiums I'm going to talk about here in a second. So this is just without premiums. We also get 13 paid holidays and 13 paid sick days per year. Vacation. So you get 2 weeks after 1 year of employment of vacation, 3 weeks after 5 years, and 4 weeks after 15 years. We provide health, dental, vision, and life insurance. There's a few different options you want to pick from. For me personally, I have Kaiser, but I have some coworkers who pick other different plans and choose different options that are better for them. It just really depends on, out of what the county offers, what's going to be best for you. We also have some retirement options available as well. Now, there are some premiums. This is aside from the $36.10 top step that we just talked about and the $22.10 that you start from. Night shift. If you're working night shift, you're going to get an additional 55 cents an hour. If you're bilingual, then you're going to receive an extra $40 per paycheck. We currently only have Spanish-speaking dispatchers that are bilingual. So if any of you speak any other languages, please apply. A lot of the people in our department that are bilingual speak Spanish as well. Unless something has changed since the last time I received an update on this, we don't have anybody who speaks anything other than Spanish and English on our department. So certainly a helpful thing. We do have translators we can bring on the line with us that can translate for us and make sure that we're giving people the most efficient help possible. If someone speaks another language, it's not really a problem for us, but it certainly helps just be able to say, okay, I have someone who speaks Spanish, my coworker speaks Spanish, I'm going to transfer the call to them, and things happen a little bit quicker. If you want to become a training officer, it's an additional $150 per hour while training. That's what I do. So if you want to teach someone else how to do this job, then it's an extra $150 per hour. Lead dispatchers, which is like our version of a manager, receive an additional 10% while working in lead positions. So let's say you're a bilingual lead dispatcher working night shift. You can stack all those premiums on top of each other. So lots of different opportunities to earn more if that's something that you want to do. So additional opportunities, you could be that lead dispatcher, training officer. You could work recruiting like I do. We also have a social events committee. That's also something that I participate in. Our social events committee makes holidays feel more like you're at home. So how you saw we have our Christmas tree that we set up during the holidays. We have a few other things that we celebrate for different holidays as well. The social events committee is responsible for planning those events out, making it happen. We have actually Dispatch National Telecommunicators Week, or Dispatch Week, coming up this April, which is where we celebrate those who work in national emergency telecommunications. So we're currently planning a bunch of festivities to that. It's really a fun week. It starts April 11th, I believe. Teaching opportunities. So if you're going to be teaching part of an academy, and tactical dispatch. So that top picture is a couple photos of our dispatchers on the left there that are participating in an event celebrating women that we did a TV segment for last year. And then on the bottom is our tactical dispatch units that are working with the field. Basically, they deploy with the SWAT team and work high risk events. So it's a really, really cool opportunity for dispatchers. You can actually go out there with the SWAT team and provide extra resources to them as well. So If they're working a radio channel and that channel goes down, they're responsible for figuring out that channel or setting up whatever resources are necessary in order to make sure that those units can finish their job effectively. So I have this part of our PowerPoint. I'm gonna give it a go. I'm not sure if it's gonna work for us on Zoom, but Mr. Soderback, if you can give me a thumbs up if you're able to hear it on your side of things here.
Yeah, just remember when you're doing the share thing, you'll have a little pull down on the top menu to share your computer sound.
Okay, give me 1 second, guys.
It'll be like up top.
New share?
It should say something like, it should give you like a couple of different options to like share your computer sound. So it'll have like a list.
Sound. There we go.
Yeah, I think you got it.
Go ahead and start us off. If you can hear me, please give us a thumbs up. Start it over here.
Bad boys, what you want, what you want, what you want.
911 emergency. I have just heard 2 shots being fired right in front of my house. I live at 524 East Indian Rock Road, Vista. Does it sound like a handgun or a shotgun? It's a handgun. How many did you hear? 2. And you're together. What's your name? Ann Pion, Pion. I did not see anybody. I was sitting down. Did it come from in front of your house? Yes. Yes, right in front, right in the street. Tell us something about this is available, okay? Thank you. You're welcome. Bye-bye. 911 emergency.
911, I need you 1149 Green Street. My wife's got a knife after me.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, what's
Left
your
me already.
Okay, are you still
I need you 911
Are you
Green.
still in the house? Get out. Listen, sir, get out of the house. Get away from her.
I can't. I ain't got no clothes on.
Go outside naked if you have to. She's got a knife.
I need you to come. Yeah.
What race are you? I want to look for you guys. Okay. Okay, where's she at now? 911 emergency.
The courtyard.
Pardon me?
The courtyard, please.
So this is 911, the Sheriff's Department. Did you have an emergency?
Well, no, I don't have an emergency, but I'm trying to find the number of...
Okay, you need to call 411 for information.
Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
91 Paul 9 residential audible.
9149 Charles.
91 Paul 9 Charles with unit to cover residential audible at 1049 Pavo Court, 1049 Pavo Court at the Ramen residence. Covers a casita motion, no answer on callback. 91 Paul 9 Charles.
9 Charles 24. EM, your honor, this is Harry Water. Someone businesses, McDonald's, going towards Bobier.
4% McDonald's towards Bobier.
Quarter CDS. Orange shirt, blue shorts, white middle, 40 years old.
WMA 40 years, orange shape, blue shorts. Units to cover 4250 North Santa Fe.
9 Ghost. 31 Ball, 3, shots fired.
3 shots fired, your location.
40 West Broadway.
240 West Broadway. Code cover, 240 West Broadway. Shots fired, 240 West Broadway, 1199.
Broadway, quick, gunpoint.
2 at gunpoint, West Broadway. 3 Paul Sam.
1 AM 10-4.
Thank you. 1199, 240 West Broadway. Shots fired.
Drop 31-2-97.
31297.
31 Charles 897.
31 Charles 897. All units only advised 197.
31-3 roll paramedic.
313 10-4.
31 Charles 8 needs some units to block the road near Del Taco. Clear that parking lot. It's in the line of fire. Safe approach will be from towards the transit center.
right, so not again. So does anyone have any questions about anything we've talked about so far?
And you can do that by putting it in the chat or just coming off your mic.
Okay, awesome. So no one can speak Polish in your department? No, I don't believe we have any Polish speakers either in our department or with the comm center. That's actually an interesting point that you bring up, a language that we have no one that currently speaks that right now, because, for example, if you speak Polish and you apply with our department and you were to be working as a dispatcher, if deputies were out in the field and they were making contact with someone who spoke Polish, then instead of having a translator communicate for them, then they could call you from the comm center and say, hey, can you call the supervisors and say, hey, can you come down here and help us out with this translation? So you could even get some field experience with that as well. It just depends on what the needs are and if they're able to use a translator at that time. But not only the fact do we offer a premium for that, but in addition, I think it's definitely helps your coworkers as well to provide that resource, because it's going to help people get help faster than having a translator. For example, if this is, you and the reporting party, then it's going to have to go in between the translator and then back to the translator and back to the reporting party. And it just, even though we're able to help people efficiently using a translator, having someone who speaks it helps us give them that service a lot faster. So good question. Does anyone else speak any other languages? Anybody bilingual? Even Spanish. I mean, we have.
Yeah, I know a lot of our students
Spanish.
Are bilingual. Yeah.
Very cool. I have a couple coworkers who speak Spanish, and even though we do have a couple, we always need more, because the odds of having someone who speaks Spanish on your shift, the more we have, then the more likely that everyone's going to be able to have every shift covered as far as Spanish speakers. Learning German, how exciting. That would be definitely helpful for us to have here in our comm center. I definitely think that we could use more Spanish speakers, really any language, but I've spoken to a couple people who speak Arabic, a couple people who speak Vietnamese, and just to know that, okay, if I had a coworker who speaks this language, this would be happening a lot faster. So any other languages are always appreciated here in our comm center.
So besides languages, what are some of the key skills do you think that are really required to be successful at this job?
Great question. I think that interpersonal communications, being able to speak clearly, being really strong with English, but also being able to, this is such a weird one because you wouldn't expect it to be a helpful skill with a job, but for us, being able to understand slang that people use here in San Diego is super helpful. So if you have someone, for example, who's calling and saying, yeah, there's this fire on the side of the highway, it was hella big. Like, I'm gonna know what that means, but my coworker who just transferred here from New York might not know what they're talking about. So understanding different slang that we use here in San Diego certainly can be helpful. Being able to have good customer service skills is a big one. So any customer service experience is gonna be helpful for this job. Before here, I worked for the zoo and I worked with Victoria's Secret as a sales associate. So being able to say, I've worked in sales, I've worked with animal type customer service, being able to say, this is my wide variety of experience is certainly something that helps both in the application process and being able to deliver that customer service in the future. I would also say being as tech savvy as possible is very helpful because we're constantly upgrading our services to new technology, the most up-to-date stuff as possible. For example, we just got text to 911, so you can actually text 911 from your phone should you be in a situation in which you're not able to talk. We certainly recommend that you call if you can, but text if you can't. So being able to be familiar with that technology, even if you're just really good with your phone. I mean, something as simple as an iPhone or an Android can be such a complicated thing. And a lot of us who are part of this generation don't realize it because we grew up using it, but being able to keep yourself familiar with that technology certainly helps. I can't tell you how many times I've had someone say, I don't know where I am, and me say, oh, what kind of phone do you have? You have an iPhone? Great, me too. Here, let me show you how to get your latitude and longitude for me. Things like that, where we can really help people use their technology to help us, but being able to pick up that new technology as we get with the department. Those are certainly things that help. And having a good background as well. You may not realize it now, but how you perform in school, how you carry yourself, and the kind of reputation that you make for yourself can certainly help or hinder you in the future, because your background investigator might decide, I'm going to call your teacher from high school. I'm going to call the high school, ask what your GPA was like. Those are all things that could be looked into in the future. So if you're really working hard, even if you don't have the best grades, you're kind of just passing, but you're showing a passion to making it work and really putting in that hard work, that's something that could help you in the future when it comes to your background process and applying for a department.
And that kind of leads into another question, which is, if I'm in high school right now, what should I be doing to prepare to get into this aspect of law enforcement?
That's a great question. Something you can do in high school right now is get the best grades possible. I know that some, I'm only 24. I know, which probably seems really old to you guys, but to me, I still feel young. But I graduated in 2015. So I very vividly remember being in high school and remembering, okay, well, English is really easy, but science really challenges me. Just being able to show very clearly that I put the work in, try to get the best grades possible. Extracurriculars, for example, if you're in high school right now, try to really apply yourself to as much as possible for you, whether that's just trying to get the best grades possible, going to tutoring sessions after school, whether you're doing a sport, because doing sports shows dedication. It shows that you're willing to apply yourself to something. But those extra things that you do outside of that, for example, I went to Santana and we had a Disney club and I was like the treasurer for the Disney club. So since I applied with our department when I was 19, that was my only experience that I had to go off of. Yes, I was in the process of going to college through Grossmont College, but all I really had behind me was to say, I've been a sales associate, I've worked at the zoo. But these are the extra things that I did when I was in high school. This is the only experience I have, is I was in the Disney club. I did welcoming events for the freshmen. I did the dance team. I did gymnastics team, like things that you can say, these are the extra things that I went out of my way to apply myself to. It shows passion, it shows dedication. So apply yourself as much as possible, not only to your classes, but if you do have the opportunity to do something extra, whether it's helping incoming freshmen or joining a sport or helping out in the office when you can, things like that are really going to give other people that observe who you are as a person in high school something to go off of and to say that, yes, they have good character. These are the things that they did to apply themselves and contribute to their community. Your community right now being your high school.
The question beyond that is do you need to take any type of college credit to get into this, or is it mainly just you're going to work off of your experience and apply?
Good question. I noticed Brenda had asked about that as well in the chat. You only have to have your high school diploma or equivalent. So if you're going to high school or getting your GED, then that's the main requirement as far as education goes. No felony convictions. There's a couple misdemeanor convictions that are disqualifying. It just depends. And those would be better questions to ask a background investigator if you previously had a misdemeanor conviction. On top of that, just to be able to have strong speaking and written skills in English. But there isn't any particular background type of education that you would have to have in order to get this job, because we do have such a thorough training program. So, going to college is always a great thing to further yourself, and I would highly recommend it. Even though I didn't use my college experience as much in this job, it certainly helps be able to have that diverse background. So if you're planning on going to college, great, go for it, do that. In fact, the department does pay for up to $2,000 of your college experience per fiscal year. So if you want to do this while you're going through college, if any of you want to be a police officer one day, just get your foot in the door and get some of that paid for. The department does pay for that as long as it's somewhat relevant to your career goal or to the department. So to answer your question, nothing needed as far as education aside from your high school diploma or your GED. But if you're planning on going to college, that also shows dedication as well. So it greatly contributes to that. There are some colleges, I know Grossmont does this, but I'm not sure about any North County colleges that offer like a dispatch prep course or a dispatch crash course. That would certainly help you get familiar with the job if it's something you're thinking about doing, but you're not really sure. It's not required by us, but it's certainly a great thing to have to say, hey, I want to go for this job. This is why I'm qualified. On top of that, I already have this experience of doing this college program. So that would certainly be helpful as well, but it's not required by any means. Beth had asked what my daily schedule is. So for me, I work Thursday through Sunday, 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. One day of the week, we have a mandatory overtime day. So one day of the week for me being Saturday morning, the department has the option of keeping me from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. That's the only required overtime I have, unless we have a day where we're super, super short and I have to stay. So because we have such great staffing right now, it's not really something that happens very often, but sometimes I do get kept on overtime. We basically have 2-hour increments. So since I work 10 hours, I could work up to 5 positions throughout my night. I worked Sunday night. I think I worked non-emergency phones for 2 hours, emergency phones for 4 hours, and then I worked actually the Vista Patrol radio for 4 hours after that. So you could technically be 911 for 2 hours, non-emergency, Spring Valley, Vista, inquiry, like you could be all these different positions, but they try to keep us as minimized as possible as far as how many positions you work. So sometimes you might work the same radio all night or the same position all night. It just depends on what the needs are. But I mean, I don't mind working multiple positions throughout an evening just because it definitely keeps things interesting and keeps the evening very exciting. So definitely. Did anyone else have any questions about what we do or anything about the department?
You could put it in the chat as well. One question I had too was, it seems like it can be not all the positions, but some of the positions look like they will be seriously stress inducing. So maybe you want to talk about just kind of like that's kind of part of the job and maybe it's a personality fit type of thing and how you manage stress.
Great question. So this definitely can be a very stressful job. People aren't just calling 911 because they're having the best day ever. People are usually calling 911 because they're having the worst day or they're experiencing something that could be the worst thing they're ever going to experience. You know, you could, for example, like we heard during the recording, you could be talking to someone who is naked and having to be running out of their house because their wife is about to stab them. And then 2 minutes later, you could be dealing with a nice older person who doesn't know that they're calling 911. They think they're calling 411. So you can receive such a wide variety of stressful things throughout your shift. And if you can't properly manage stress, then I'm gonna be honest, this job might not be for you. It's probably not for you. The good thing is going into this, like for myself, personally, I have a law enforcement family. My family's all law enforcement or military. So I had a pretty good idea of what that was going to be before actually going into this job. But if you're thinking, well, I know I can manage things pretty effectively. I know I'm able to handle things under pressure. That's a big one as well, being able to handle things under pressure. But I'm not really sure how I would handle the stress aspect. If you're just not sure and haven't experienced something like that before, keep in mind that our department provides so many different resources for support. We work with the Employee Assistance Program, which I've used myself before. If you have a really hard call or a really hard experience and you need to talk to a counselor, there are tons of either resources that are paid for already by the department or resources that are free as well. We also have a really great peer support program. Basically, it's people that work within the department that are here to support their peers. It's anonymous. So if you don't want someone to know who you are and you just want to talk to someone, like that's definitely an option. And we also have different counseling resources. We also have a really great environment at the comm center as far as support goes. If you need to talk to someone, or let's say you handle a really hard call, like if you, for example, I handled a really hard domestic violence call a couple weeks ago. And even though I was okay, the first thing that I got the minute that call was over is a message from a supervisor saying, hey, that was a really hard call. Are you okay? Do you want to talk about it? Do you need to go outside and take a lap and just get the adrenaline out of you? That's all things that we offer here at the department as far as resources and different types of support. So yes, it is a very stressful job. And if you can't handle stress, this job is not for you. But if you're just kind of, I've never experienced anything like that before, I'm not really sure, keep in mind that we do offer tons and tons of resources to be able to offer that support to our employees and our coworkers. And it definitely feels like a family here. A lot of us spend more time at the comm center than we do with our families, just depending on how much overtime you work and what your schedule is like. You might be spending a lot of holidays here. So we try to make it as supportive of an environment as possible. And it truly does feel like a family at the end of the day. Great question.
Do we have any more questions, either in the chat or if you want to come off mic?
Well, thank you guys so much
Yeah.
for having me today. I'm sorry for the delay in getting on here. It's been a little bit of a busy day here.
No, that's all right.
We appreciate you guys allowing us to present what we do to you guys. I myself am very, very passionate about this job, and a lot of us are very passionate about it as well. So if it's something that you're interested in, you can go to joinsdsheriff.net. We have all of our options up there as well. I'll go ahead and drop that into the chat. And if you're ever interested, you can't remember our, oh, there's a typo there. Ignore that. If you ever are interested and don't remember the link, then you can also go to our sheriff's website, just look up San Diego Sheriff, and we have a link to our recruitment on there as well. And we also have a lot about what our department does on our website too, between different resources that we offer. We obviously work the courts and the jails as well. So whether it's the fact that you want to be a dispatcher, or maybe you're interested in being a cop or working with some other entity like the DA's office or Department of Justice, anything like that, or you want to go federal one day, this is a great way to get your foot in the door, you guys. It's not something you have to go to college for. You can go into it straight out of high school if you want. We teach you everything, and county takes great care of us. So I definitely think there's a lot to love about this job, and we'd be lucky to have any of you guys. So if you're interested, you can go ahead and follow that link or go to our website. And thank you guys for letting me come and present to you guys today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Of course. Thank you guys.
Thank you very much. Very cool presentation.
Yeah, very cool.
Have a great day, you guys.